People in Connecticut are watching the New York City mayor's race very carefully these days, as Mamdani has been called a Democratic socialist, is ahead in the polls. Some are predicting that if he wins, Mamdani could drive businesses out of New York, and that could be good for Connecticut. Joining me now is Richard Farley. He is the author of a new book called Drop Dead. What a title, huh? This certainly gets your attention. It is about the financial problems that the city of New York faced in 1975. And Rich, good to see you here in the program.
Thank you for having me, Dennis.
First of all, a little bit background on your background.
Sure. I'm an attorney. I work with financial institutions and have always had an interest in financial catastrophes. And we're at the 50th anniversary of the fiscal crisis of 1975, where New York City nearly went bankrupt. And I thought that it would be a fortuitous time to tell that story and dig into a lot of the detail that has been sort of lost in the conventional narrative.
1975 was a big year. We had the end of the Vietnam War, the fall of Saigon, all sorts of other things happened.
We had the Red Sox in the World Series.
Yeah, against Cincinnati Reds in the fall of 1975. We were just getting over Watergate. Gerald Ford was president, and he's the one who. Did he say these exact words, drop dead to New York?
Well, it's there's an irony in the title, because it was actually Ford who bailed the city out. But in the negotiations over the terms of the bailout, the city and state of New York portrayed his terms as being draconian, and they successfully negotiated a very good deal on behalf of the city and the state.
So in a nutshell, what was happening to New York? Were they going bankrupt?
They were. There were a number of things that happened. One was, most importantly, they spent beyond their means for over a decade. And in order to continue doing that, because once people get used to something, they don't want to see you take it away, they started to play games with the budgets, play games with debt, incurring debt that they really shouldn't have legally. And when you've got a rising interest rate environment, it catches up with you at the most inopportune time, and that's basically what happened. And you had the recession of 73 and 74. You had the Nixon administration, Ford administration, curtailing a lot of aid to New York City. So you had a perfect storm of events that resulted in the city nearly running out of cash.
And there are a lot of interesting characters. Right on the cover, we see Donald Trump.
Yeah.
How did he fit into this back in 1975?
His father, Fred, was one of the largest real estate developers and very well connected politically in the city at that time. Was very good friends with A. Beam.
Who was the mayor?
Who was the mayor. And Trump came up through the Brooklyn Democratic machine. He was a Democrat. And a lot of the tactics we now see, the hardball and all that, that was going on in Brooklyn in the 1970s. So this would ring true in terms of what you see in terms of going after the law firms, going after the universities. They played for keeps in those days.
And a lot of people left New York in 1975, or right after that, right?
They did. And in fact, it was a boon to Connecticut because a lot of the businesses then stayed in the city. Because not like today, where an investment bank can leave New York and go to Florida and basically flip a switch. Back then, you had to be in New York, but a lot of the people left and came here. A lot of the high-paying jobs, people working there decided to move out of the city because of all these issues. And at that time, if you remember, Connecticut had no income tax. It was a real tax haven. Now, whether if the problems that the city are facing now, and obviously with a socialist mayor about to be elected, whether that helps, I think it will, at least in the beginning. Connecticut, it will be interesting to see. But in the long term, if enough businesses leave the area entirely and go to Texas and Florida, it may actually hurt.
I want to talk about this. So if the socialist, Mamdani, gets elected,
right,
you believe that it could benefit Connecticut because there could be some companies.
Oh, I think it absolutely will, at least initially. Because I think that there's a tipping point that's reached when you've got too much taxation, when you've got, if you're not going to have a police force that is as effective as Ms. Tisch is running right now, and he has not promised to reappoint her, you could see people leave in large numbers.
Lamont watches this program religiously. Thank you, Governor. What's your advice to him if he is thinking about maybe luring some of these disgruntled companies, if they are disgruntled come November?
I think being as business friendly as you can, and that means low crime and safe streets, and low taxes. Those are the things that will attract the businesses out of New York. And it's not just out of New York now, because you got to keep them from going to Florida and Texas. Sure. And the competition among the states is brutal, as you know, for these businesses.
And there are a lot of CEOs of New York companies who live in Fairfield County, particularly
sure.
in New York.
Absolutely.
What happens to them if they decide to move their company out of New York?
Well, I think it's interesting. As we learned, like I said, during COVID, you can work from anywhere. So if the business moves out of New York City, let's say to Texas and Florida, that may not necessarily mean that the key executives will move as well. They may decide to spend a part of the year here, a part of the year in Florida and Texas. We've seen a lot of that in New York City recently. It is all up for grabs.
As we look at the last 50 years, yep. since that headline dropped and appeared in the New York Post,
right?
What was the, I guess, the highlight of living in New York in the last 50 years? Was there, like, when New York peaked, in your opinion?
I think New York peaked during the last Bloomberg administration. I think that he was a mayor who understood what kept businesses and the tax base in New York City. And I think that it has been slowly eroding ever since then, sadly.
What's the mood in New York right now? Do people think that Mamdani is going to win?
Yeah, look, I think it depends who you ask. I think that he's a very charismatic guy, and he's a great politician. And I think the younger people in particular see him as an energizing figure. But I think those who have been around a while and who pay the taxes are very concerned.
Richard Farley, he is the author of Drop Dead. You can get it on Amazon bookstores right now. We're going to have to see what happens after this election, but we appreciate your insight.
Thank you, Dennis, and give my regards to your lovely wife.
I certainly will.
Thank
certainly
you.
will. And lots of interesting characters. We mentioned Trump, obviously, Ford, but Bob Dole gets mentioned.
He does.
And all sorts of other people.
Tip O'Neill played a very big role.
Nelson Rockefeller.
Nelson Rockefeller played a huge role.
Amazing.
Yeah.
So, Rich, good to see you, man.
Thank you, Dennis.
Coming up, the Jewish holidays.